I will not take too much time for the introduction because we are late, but just to tell you why we speak about the spaces of space. The idea is that in order to activate, to foster creativity, it is necessary to act at three levels. One was the level of the innovation. There we organized the pilots and the hackathons. You have heard about the pilots. During this session, interlaced with the full presentations, we will invite the people and the experts who have launched their creativity products as successful results of the selection in the hackathons and in the incubation process, to give us a pitch, 5 minutes to present their idea. Then, as for the MUPOP, for the pop-up museum, there are desks where you can have more information. So the first space is the space of the innovation. In the space of innovation, we have developed the idea of the pop-up museum and the individual applications that you can see in that area of the room. The second space is the space of the content, because in order to be creative, it is necessary to access content. In order to be able to access content, it is necessary that the content is open. And for this reason, we have developed a full suite of IPR tools in order to tell about how to make content open, which are the benefits of making content open. The third area, the third space that we have developed is the technical space. It is where the software to be able to access different sources of content is available. Because the content, even if it is open, must be found. It is necessary to know where the content is. It is necessary to know how to get the content. And at the beginning of the pilots that you have seen demonstrated before, it was really a matter to understand how to get the content from Europeana, from the Digital Public Libraries of America, from Flickr. Everybody has different interfaces. To address this problem, we developed the technical space. Each of these spaces, the innovation with the hackathons, the content with the IPR toolkit, and the technical with what we call the eSpace portal, will be subject of the sustainability and the continuation of eSpace. So let's start the spaces of eSpace, and we start with the one pitch. The first invited is Marius. Marius first. If you agree, I will only call people with the first name, so I avoid to pronounce in a terrible way last names from different languages. So I would invite Marius to talk to us about Remake Known.
Okay. Thank you for being here. My name is Marius. I'm a designer. I'm one of the guys of Remake Known. Thank you. Do you know Yu Tu? In 2015, she won the Nobel Prize in Medicine for developing treatment against malaria. The very cool thing is she found traces in 1,000-year-old for her studies in 1,000-year-old books of traditional Chinese medicine. So why I'm telling you that? Because that's the proof. New ideas and innovations are hidden in our cultural heritage. And we are convinced this power of knowledge needs to be accessible for everyone. The digitization opened a new universe of possibilities, but most of the solutions following a beaten track. It's a bit like you want to explore a city, but only use the underground. You won't see that much of the city. So we need new ideas and new ways to go on a treasure hunt. Therefore, we need to tackle some problems. Let name me a few. First, we only find what we already know. And then we get lost in borrowing long lists. Second, institutions have a lot of things to do. That means mostly they don't have the resources to build funky applications. And third, due to standards, archives often appear to be closed systems. So, what we are doing about it? With the semantic search engine Remake known, users are able to access and explore a digitized archive in a new and fun way. We combined a great interface design, a clever search logic, and sorry. Yeah, let's go further. Let's start with the interface. It's a clear presentation of selected content, and it looks quite randomly, but the items have a certain degree of relationship. So the algorithm uses the metadata of the archive to find those relationships between the items and with them create the interface. Now let's interact. The rotary knob changed the degree of relationship and therefore the appearance of the collage. That's how you're digging deeper and leaving your comfort zone. And to retrace the path of the algorithm, you have the meta view to understand what's going on. And of course, behind each item, there are much more information to find. And furthermore, with the creation features, you are able to save and share your found treasures and build your own little online exhibitions. As much as we care for the users, we care for the institutions and want to make things easy for them. With the widget, you are able to easily integrate Remake known into your existing websites. And of course, the design can be adapted to your corporate identity. With the analysis tool, you are able to understand how your data is used. That can help you to improve your archive and to find new inspiration for future exhibitions. And with the Data Hub, you easily integrate your data and manage it. And you can connect it with other archives. That makes it really interesting even for the smallest institution. All this together makes Remake known a powerful tool to access our cultural heritage, to reuse, to reimagine, and to remake. So help us to make you a future Nobel Prize winner. We verify archive experience, we spot hidden treasures, and we empower the audience. We make known. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Marius, and thank you for the presentation. Please take into account that it was a part of the incubation process also to prepare this pitch. So if you have comments, please let them know, because it is a part of the job that we are doing in the project. Thank you. Now, one pitch of one of the incubated projects, so an element of the innovation space. We move to the technical space. Nasos Drosopoulos from the National Technical University of Athens, he will present us the space portal. So how to access from a unique point of access different sources, among which, first of all, Europeana and many more. Thank you.
Thank you for the introduction. So, as Antonella already said, I'm going to present the eSpace portal. The eSpace portal is the result of an agile development process that started in the project with the specification and implementation of the technical space and infrastructure that the project offers that facilitates the creative reuse of cultural heritage. Moving from that implementation, we went through numerous interactions with the project pilots through the hackathon events and with the other spaces, the content and innovation spaces, in order to come up with the eSpace portal that is the culminations of all the efforts of the project to connect the cultural and creative sectors and to enable the development of meaningful and sustainable applications and products. So this is the landing page of the eSpace portal, and I will go through some of the highlights of the functionalities of the portal itself. The first thing that you can do is to discover beautiful cultural heritage material from an evolving list, an evolving set of sources, starting from aggregation repositories such as Europeana and the equivalents in other places of the world, like the Digital Public Library of America, the National Library of Australia, and so on. It also connects repositories of institutions that offer high-quality material, such as the Rijksmuseums, collections from the British Library that are available on Flickr Commons, and similar repositories. It can also connect to more abstract repositories, media repositories, for example, so YouTube or Flickr images. And knowledge repositories such as DBpedia that can provide additional information that can be connected with the cultural heritage material. So you have a single point of searching for material in order to gather resources from all those different sources through a common interface. Of course, there's, as we are aggregating all these APIs that are offered by those repositories, we are also offering a common filtering mechanism based on the options that each of the APIs are offering. So you can search for content that has, for material that has images of different qualities. You can search by using specific rights statements, so look for high-quality material that allows creative reuse, and so on. By reaching out to all those repositories, you can start collecting materials and content from the search results that you are performing in order to put them into collections in your user account. So you can create collections from with content from all those different repositories and have them in a common place without having to know the specifics of each repository or API. You can also create, apart from typical collections, something more elaborate, like digital exhibitions, so you can add your own narrative on top of a collection. The purpose for all that is to facilitate the reuse, as we said, of all that interesting content. So from the content provider point of view, they can upload their content either standalone or connecting it with content from the other sources, and then provide access through a common API. From the point of view of a developer, you can use the platform to actually find content and then through the API build applications that are using this content. And also through the API, you have access to some of the platform services that may be useful for the development of the application, such as metadata services, enrichment, or lookup services, and so on. The platform, the portal has some social aspects as well, so you can, as everyone has his own account, you can either have your collections being public, or you can share them with specific colleagues that you want in order to start co-creating or co-curating a collection or an exhibition. And even more, you can create specific groups, either interest groups or something more formal, where you bring people together, you bring specific content, so you narrow down the content base behind the portal, in order to create groups that facilitate co-creation and co-development on specific themes. Similarly, those interest groups can evolve into what we call spaces, so they can have their own customized look and feel. They can have their own pool of content, so instead of searching for everything across all the repositories that are connected, you can search for specific material that is curated by the specific group. So we have spaces that correspond to other European projects that have collaborated with us, such as Europeana Food and Drink, EU Screen, Europeana Sounds, or there are spaces from individual institutions that are showcasing their content and offering the API to third-party developers to build interesting ideas around it. And institutions such as the Photo Consortium that represent specific thematic domains around the Europeana family, and are using the platform to show the content that they offer, and also to offer the API for further development using this material. The portal also offers an annotation and crowdsourcing infrastructure that can be used to run campaigns on top of the content that is being showcased, in order to either gather annotations from users just to complement the metadata that are available, or in more formal procedures to gather annotations that are being meant to enrich the original content. One such example is happened in the Europeana Sounds project, where they used the eSpace portal to set up their own space, and we worked with them to integrate the annotation software that they were using there, the Pandit tool, and run their campaign where they invited users to help them identify the musical instruments that were being used in the different audio material that they aggregated. The technologies behind the eSpace portal I will not go through in detail because I'm getting the yellow card, the first one of the day. So it's based on metadata services, the main platform for those that know it. So services that allow the aggregation and the interoperability between the different sources of metadata, and then with a tool that facilitates the aggregation of different APIs, this federated search that I mentioned, together with the social aspects of the platform and the annotation and crowdsourcing infrastructure. So, as you can see, the portal is addressing a wide range of users. In general, it's a nice tool for every user to use to discover content and resources that reside in different repositories and distributed, and to combine those different material together with your own, as you can also upload material in the portal, in order to create new narratives around cultural heritage. For aggregators specifically, it implements typical aggregation workflows, but also, apart from the typical services, the metadata services that I mentioned, it also offers for content holders an easy-to-use content and metadata repository, together with a customizable portal, as you saw, the spaces, in order to both visualize the content maybe differently than how it is in the institution repositories, but also to have a ready-to-use API to give access to specific subsets of content in order to promote creative reuse. Finally, for cultural heritage professionals, there are tools that they can use to reinterpret cultural heritage, to create new, again, narratives around it. And for the creative industry, it is a tool that they can use in order to source content easily, to bypass all the technicalities of content sourcing, metadata interoperability, the different APIs that are available, and move faster in the interesting phase, which is to put their ideas into motion and to try to prototype and build applications that reuse cultural heritage. I mentioned that this is an ongoing development process, so we're still working on it through all these collaborations with the different pilots and the other spaces. We're still doing design and editorial work for the portal. It still needs fine-tuning and some branding and labeling issues that need to be resolved. We are also importing, as you already saw from the different pilots of the project, there are several exhibition tools that are being used and several exhibitions that are being produced. We are importing those exhibitions, and we are setting up a data model that would support all those different exhibitions. Also the pop-up museum one, in order to create an editor that would make the setting up of such exhibitions easier, and a web player that would give an equivalent, as far as you can do without the physical presence, and an equivalent layout of the exhibition itself. Finally, the annotation infrastructure that I mentioned is being enriched, where apart from manual annotation, you can run automatic annotation tasks using the text extraction algorithms and looking up a large set of thesauri that are being published and are being made available through the different communities around Europeana. Also, you can use third-party services that perform annotation tasks, enrichment tasks, and content-based services such as image-based concept detection and so on. It also offers a voting and a validation system, so you can either do a crowdsourcing campaign where people vote on tags, or you can do a closed, curated enrichment task where you have a set of enrichments, and the curators can accept the ones that their professional opinion tells them to, and then push all this information back to the original content. Finally, we are building an editor for the space creation in order to be easier to customize the look and feel of the different spaces. So we invite you to be inspired from the portal and all the uses that it already has, and to experiment with it, and of course give us as much feedback as you can. And you are free to contact me and Marius, my colleague, that is available. There's also a spot there on the tables for the last session of the meeting, where we can show you in a bit more detail the functionality of the portal. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Nasos. Well, I think that I would invite Aris to come. I think that you have now an idea of what we have developed. One of our first preoccupation when we started with the Europeana space was to design a technical space which was not overlapping or contradictory with the philosophy of Europeana. We think that we managed to do our job, because what Nasos presented is really a complement to what is presented and was presented by Nicole before for Europeana. So thank you, Nasos. And the next is a pitch from the innovation space, Aris, who will present us Vivlio. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. I'm Aris from Team Biblio. We were the winners of the Hack a Book hackathon that took place in Onassis Cultural Center in Athens. We're a small Athens-based team that specializes in providing publishing services. And today I will be presenting a spin-off of our parent company, Biblio, who aims to produce and reimagine literary classics with a more contemporary approach. Our most recent project was tseliot.com, which is the official repository of the famous poet T.S. Eliot. And you can have a look at it. It's a vast digital archive containing full texts of his essays, poems, as well as previously unpublished letters and photographic material. During the Hack the Book hackathon, we had a chance to showcase our publishing approach, utilizing both traditional means of publishing paired with technology. So why choose the classics? We chose republishing the classics because we think they are indispensable and they are a cultural treasure. And before talking about what we do, we're going to see what's the current state of publishing classic books. So we have the traditional print publishing, which currently mostly focuses on repackaging the material by providing a new cover, perhaps some illustrations, and maybe even an introduction by an academic. And then we have their digital counterparts, which once again are repackagings of the print version that most of the times are poorly executed and lack good typography. So you've often heard the term that content is king, but we feel that in the case of a digital reader, the reader should be also king or queen. And we think that there is a lot of room left for the web to step up and offer this. And now I'm going to talk about what our offering is. So basically what we offer is a digital and analog contextual reading environment, which its main point is a booking browser that is accessible by everyone, everywhere, using any device without having to download an application. Moreover, we never forget about the print. Oh, sorry. Yeah. So this is the booking browser. And this offers you a clean environment to read the whole text of the book, navigate around it, and we also offer some contextual information if you decide to use them. Otherwise, you can just read the book with no distractions whatsoever. We never forget about the print. We don't believe that the print medium is antagonizing the digital version of a book. In fact, we think that both are complementary. And the best solution for the reader is to have them both. So these are just some examples of information that we have encoded. This is information that is contained within the book, and it's not us doing the actual encoding, but we have commissioned literary experts to actually encode these things. So this is another example. We can be more abstract and also encode themes of a book. And then from all this encoded information, we can create some indexes, such as a character map, an object list with descriptions and images. And what's more, we also provide some tools for easier navigation from within the book. So we don't just have chapter navigation. We have split the book into different scenes, into timelines, offering you a quick way to navigate through the book. So to sum it up, what we offer is free and open access to the booking browser for everyone. We also offer a print edition. All this process of producing this type of books is the result of commissioning literary experts and artists for the illustration. And we believe that we offer a superior design to the current offerings. We're currently be launching our first book, which will be Tom Sawyer, and that will be in January. And you can follow us on the following accounts, and we're happy to answer any questions or discuss any thoughts you have at a later stage on our stand at the back of the room. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Aris. And I had the pleasure to attend at the hackathon where the application was selected, and I see a lot of improvement from January, February until now. Thank you. We move to the the third space, because the innovation is a space that is pervading us. We move to the third space, that is the space of content. The presentation will be delivered by Charlotte Wilde, who has been the work package leader for this work in Europeana space, and she will present the copyright tools for cultural heritage. Thank you, Charlotte.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So, yes, I'm going to talk about the content space, which we now sort of collectively call, it is the content space, but we've got a lot of tools in there. So we're looking at copyright tools for cultural heritage. eSpace has been is about the reuse of digital cultural content in the creative economy. And in order to reuse digital cultural content, you do have to think copyright. Copyright underpins not necessarily digitization, there's an argument there, but sort of certainly some acts of reusing, remaking available digital cultural content, making new forms of digital cultural content, and also in innovating in tools. So our job has really been to try and encourage colleagues within the eSpace consortium to think copyright. And this has been my mantra from the beginning, think copyright. And sometimes they've been going, oh no, Charlotte, go away. But generally, I have to say, people have been absolutely wonderful. And it's been a terrific and inclusive process, getting people to think copyright and helping people to think about and manage copyright through the eSpace process. So what have we done? We have copyright tools for cultural heritage. We've got a number of things. If you look at the content space on the website, you'll find an eSpace IPR video, a project description, an online IPR consulting kit, open content exchange platform, some case studies, and our contribution to the MOOC. So just going through these very briefly, it's got a bit stretched. My colleague doesn't really quite look like that, but this is our it's an introduction really to eSpace and IPR that we've got there. It's a very straightforward introduction. It's meant to be done in a very accessible way. It's for cultural entrepreneurs. It's for people thinking about using and reusing digital cultural content, and it just is a brief introduction to some of the terminology that you kind of need to know about around IP. And in particular copyright. We are talking copyright here. Then we did a broad introduction to setting the scene around copyright in the cultural heritage sector, particularly obviously with the focus on eSpace. For those of you, for cultural entrepreneurs who come to this, who don't know an awful lot about copyright and think, well, where does this come from anyway? And why do I have to bother about this? So this is what this document's for. It's really to talk generally about copyright, where it comes from, and why it can be important to think about it. Then we've got the online IPR consulting kit. It's not very, you can't see it very well there, can you? But what we've got here are what we call 14 different tools in this online IPR consulting kit, all of which are downloadable, either individually or collectively. We've got information, reuse of public sector information, which Marcel has already talked about today. We have information on that there. We have information on choosing a CC license, a Creative Commons license, and we've already heard about Creative Commons as well. We've got fact sheets on licensing. You know, the word licensing has already come up, and licensing is something that's very important around copyright and digital cultural heritage. We've got information on clearing rights, so there's a whole range of things there. And it's specifically aimed at the cultural entrepreneur. A whole range of things that they can go and have a look at. And in order to develop these, we did consult, obviously, with our colleagues in the eSpace project. You know, what would be helpful for you when, you know, you're thinking about copyright and digital cultural heritage. The next one is, again, we're very proud of this. It's the Open Content Exchange platform. And when we started the eSpace project, a lot of people were saying, you know, we like open things, you know. And there really isn't you know, sort of a complete, you know, gap, if you like, between open and making money out of digital cultural content. You can do both of those things. And the purpose of the open platform was really to give, it's brought together a whole range of repositories where you can find open content. It's got case studies there about open and how to make money out of digital cultural content that might be open. So a whole range of resources there for people who are working within cultural heritage and are interested in some way in open. Moving on to the next one. Yes, then we've been working on a series of case studies for each of the pilot projects. So I've just picked up the eSpace photography case study there because I had a nice picture on the front. But there's 6, obviously. So we've done an IPR case study for each of the pilot projects where we've started from, you know, sort of inception when our colleagues have been developing the tools and the content. We've gone through the hackathon process, through business modelling workshops and incubation. And what we've done for each of them is narrate where copyright issues came up and how we responded to them. So there's information in there, for instance, about the content that people sourced, the tools they used, questions that we were asked, and some challenges that actually came up as well. So that's the case studies we've got. And then we did our contribution to the MOOC as well. So there's an IPR section within the MOOC, and people have been using it, which is fantastic. And what our contribution to the MOOC was really designed to do was to unpick a little bit some of these tools that we'd made and, you know, sort of ask questions around them, make people focus on them, and then respond to them if they had questions about them. So that's what our contribution was to the MOOC was designed to do. What do I think the highlights are, or were, or are still? I didn't mention, but what we did during the course of the project was to develop what we called a little protected space. And this was for people kind of to play around with content to play around with content. But the content had to stay in there because it might be a bit of a question, you know, sort of the rights might not be cleared to go out and be reused in any way. So this little protected technical space, technical and legal space, where people could play around and innovate without worrying too much about copyright. And I'm delighted to say that that was used by a couple of the pilots to great, you know, they really quite enjoyed it, I think. The tools that we've brought together, I think that the focus that we've got, I think is particularly important and interesting. They do focus on the creative economy. And this is the only repository that I've seen so far that really collects tools together, you know, tools around copyright that focuses on the creative economy and is really designed to help people think about what they have to think about copyright in order to be able to reuse it within the creative economy. Copyright for hackathons. When we started off the hackathon process, we couldn't actually find any particular information that talked about how to manage copyright during hackathons. And of course, managing copyright during hackathons is really very important because copyright arises in hackathons. Copyright comes with, you know, sort of you might have content that you bring to hackathons that already has copyright in it. You might have tools that already have copyright in it. And of course, you innovate in hackathons. And innovation creates new copyright. And you need to manage that. So we developed a series of guidelines around copyright for hackathons, which we were really, really pleased about. Bringing together the information on open, I think we've got some very good feedback around the open content exchange platform that we developed, because it really does pull together a lot of information that people were, sort of had been looking for and make it available in an accessible, searchable and engaging way. The IPR case studies and lessons learned. One of the sort of things that we really wanted to do when we did the IPR case studies was to highlight what have we learned during this course, during the course of sort of thinking IPR during the project. So any other cultural entrepreneur that comes to this can learn from our lessons, basically. So we've pulled those together, and they will be, they're just about to be published, I think, yes. Yeah, 5 minutes. Antonella's saying 5 minutes. And then, yes, the MOOC on IPR for entrepreneurs. And we hope, but it has been used. We know we've had people in there. And we hope that what we've been able to do with that is to, sort of really make, sort of an easy journey, again, an accessible journey for cultural entrepreneurs to understand a little bit more about copyright and digital cultural heritage. I have some reflections. Copyright and innovation can be what I might call uneasy bedfellows. Copyright is designed, we have copyright in order to stimulate innovation, but they can sometimes not necessarily kind of fit together as well as one might want. Let's put it like that. But not thinking IP can have its consequences. And this, I think, was very graphically or potentially graphically illustrated in the photography case study, where we were absolutely delighted, of course, as eSpace to sort of develop through the hackathon process the Story Picks project that we've heard a bit about. But there was an issue during the hackathon that potentially raises questions about ownership over the kernel of innovation. And that's all I'm going to say. And if you want to read more about it, you need to read the photography case study. Being aware of copyright can lead to knowing when to ask questions. And we just heard from Vivleo, and I'm very pleased to say that during the course of Vivleo's incubation, that I did have a discussion with them, because they knew actually that they had to think copyright and that sort of they wanted to ask some questions. Technologies are going to develop apace, there's no question about that. Copyright's not going to go away. For Europe, and for those who are remaining in Europe, there's a whole raft of new copyright laws coming. Goodness knows what will happen in Britain, but copyright will continue to develop. And I think for the cultural entrepreneur, sort of working within the digital cultural heritage space, I repeat my mantra that I've started at the beginning of this project. Think copyright. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Charlotte. Your constant remembering has been very much useful for everybody. I invite now Sergej and Karina. Sergej?
Yeah.
Okay, to present another piece of the innovation space, that is the Picasso's cat.
Is there a pointer, laser pointer?
No, I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, no, but you can just, yeah. Yeah, so let's get started. So if you wonder what all these weird cats around you on the posters, we will see it in a minute. So today we're going to talk about a normal person like me, Homer, or someone on the street who doesn't know much about art, but he really wants to learn about art. And the problem is, in modern society, we have a lot of restrictions. Like you go to work, then in the evening you have to commute back home, and all you have is like 5 minutes on the tube to learn about art. And as someone said before, everyone on the tube always stares at Mona Lisa, like these people there. But in real life they play Angry Birds. And the problem we want to tackle, can you teach people in 5 minutes about art on the tube And our answer is, yes, we can. Here comes the technology. You take Van Gogh on one hand and a cat on the other, and you get like Van Gogh cat. And you might wonder, like, why would you do this? Like, what is the value of this? And you want to turn it into a game. So we're going to play a game now. And I really need attention of everyone, especially people in the laptops in the back row and staring at the phones there. Look carefully. Does it look more like Kota Lisa or Cat Brand? So if you think it's Kota Lisa, please raise your hand. Anyone? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5? Okay, wonderful. And the answer is, I will tell you later, it ours stands there. Yeah, so our game, it has 3 modes. First is a play mode, where you need to say, is it a cat of Van Gogh or is it cat of Picasso? It's a kind of quiz. And second one is you need to learn about interesting topics or artworks. Like if you look here, it's Degas, Picasso, and Van Gogh. What do you think they might have in common? There is a common topic in their paintings, which is really, really exciting. And we will tell you again at our stand later. And the point is, sometimes you're really tired. You don't want to learn, play. You just want to browse pictures like your Facebook. And you want to give a user an option. Okay, don't stare at Facebook. Stare at famous paintings with cats. So, of course, everyone recognizes the famous Bonifazio's The Cat of My Parents. But can you really spot the keys by Klimt here? It's one of the tasks. If you look at the walls again, there is the same game where you need to recognize all the painters. And this is one of the options how we can quiz people. Okay, you have 4 cats. Can you say which one is Klimt, which one is Picasso, or Degas, maybe? He's not here, actually. Or Van Gogh. Another one is a learning mode. And there are a lot of interesting facts about like art, and people are not aware of it. So they think that like pop art is a kind of joke where like a lot of cans on the wall or whatever. But in fact, it's quite deep, and we want to give people an impression what are interesting facts behind the painting in simple cat pictures. Like if you look at this one, look, he's really beautiful, but his smile is a fake, right? Or if you look at the other one, you see this golden fame around. And at the end, we present a picture of Marilyn Monroe by Andy Warhol. And we say, you see this golden fame around her, but her eyes say it's like a fake or illusion, and there is like a death coming. And it's all in cats' pictures. Yeah. Or it's my favorite one. It's so wonderful. It's called Captation of Adam. And the point is, sometimes there is no deep meaning. You just want to entertain people. And we provide an opportunity, if you want, like it's an existing algorithm that uses complicated deep convolutional neural nets, doesn't matter. You can submit your picture and get your cat redrawn in the style of Creation of Adam. Isn't that wonderful? Yeah. We even might start a challenge where there was like a project where you need to recreate a painting. We might ask you to recreate a painting with your cat, for example. We will draw it in this style. We can do it real time, by the way. And we can see who is better. And you get like you will get a badge of cat master. So what's our mission? Like in one sentence, what we want to do? We want to get access to the art and teach people about art who are not reachable by traditional methods. Like this person who is like making coffee for you, he will not go every day to the gallery. He has to take care of children, family, probably travel by train for an hour or so. We want to reach these people. And if you are interested, please subscribe. We have like a lunch rock where you can like subscribe, put your email. And when we have first version, we will send it to you. So come for cats and stay for art.
Thank you very much. It was a great fun. Where creativity meets fun. Well, we have finished now the first part of the session 2, because you have had the presentation of the technical, content, and innovation spaces. The innovation space will continue with the pitches along until this afternoon. I would suggest that we don't break for questions and answers because we are terribly late in time, but if you want to have to discuss something about the content space, Charlotte is with us. If you want to discuss something about the technical space, Nasos is with us. And now I would leave the space to another kind of presentation. We are entering now in looking at what has been done in other projects dealing with the same subjects that were developed in Europeana space in order to look at different points of view, different perspectives. eSpace has had always the mandate to be open, and for this reason I would like to invite Caterina. She is from SPK, the organization that hosts this conference, and she will talk about the result that has been developed in a sister project, in the RICHES project. Thank you, Caterina.
Well, thank you very much. Oops. So my presentation draws on research conducted at the Institute for Museum Research of the Staatliche Museen zu Berlin within the frame of the European research project RICHES that was completed this summer. You can see some of the results of the project. So our study focused on the educational role of museums in a knowledge and lifelong learning society, and the ways in which the integration of digital technologies can increase audience engagement with cultural heritage. However, although the educational use of digital technologies in cultural heritage institutions rapidly spreads, systematic evaluation studies in this field remain limited or unpublished. This is why we analyzed and evaluated special digital learning facilities and learning programs within museum spaces. One of our case studies, which I will present shortly today, concerned the Time Machine, which is a digital storytelling installation, and it is presented to museum visitors within the new permanent exhibition of the Museum of Prehistory and Early History at the Neues Museum. And now that you're in Berlin, maybe you have some time to go by and see it. So I will shortly present the Time Machine, very shortly, and only a small part of the results of our evaluation, which are under development. So, cultural heritage is a precious repository of creative ideas, as we have already seen, where museums and creative people can turn for inspiration. For the Museum of Prehistory and Early History, the integration of digital technologies for education was inspired by the miniature dioramas in their collections, like this one that you see here, that shows mining activities in the Bronze Age. So storytelling inspired from the life scenes of the dioramas helped to digitally reconstruct the living worlds of prehistory, bridging the gap between the past and today. In the stories of the Time Machine, the objects, or the tangible heritage, are part of the life of individuals, the fictional characters and their communities, together with intangible elements such as skills, beliefs, activities, and events. The stories show how a place situated at the foothills of the Alps changes over a period of almost 79,000 years under the influence of men, which is from the beginning of the Stone Age until the end of the Bronze Age. Hand-drawn aquarelle illustrations, as the ones you see, but enhanced with illusionistic 3D rendering, depict the characters and the scenery. Camera movements on the drawings create an illusion of animation and accentuate the audio commentary, explaining the scenes. So the audio guides automatically synchronize with the sequence shown when the visitors approach this installation or watch the time machine. In addition, background sounds, such as characters' voices and ambient sounds, make the scenes livelier. A timeline helps to navigate in time. So the visitors can watch the stories, there are 7 short stories, sitting comfortably on benches in the Learning Lounge, a dedicated place, which is in a gallery on the 2nd floor of the museum. And now what you can see here is just the technical infrastructure, which is the inside of this, the box, the time machine, and how it works actually. For the evaluation of the time machine, a mixed methods approach was selected. First, qualitative methods to gather data on the visitors, together with qualitative methods that allow deeper insights into visitors' attitudes, needs, and behaviors. During the week of the survey, which happened in September 2015, approximately 2,400 visitors watched the time machine. And we had the chance to collect 313 completed questionnaires. So, an equal number of female and male visitors watched the time machine. Other studies have shown that male users are more frequently using museum digital media and interactives than female users. As to their ages, visitors were from 15 to 83 years old. Visitors aged from 20 to 29 and from 50 to 59 were best represented. Actually, it was an international audience coming from 35 countries and reflecting the visitor structure of other museums in Berlin, like the ones in the Museum Island or the Jewish Museum in Berlin. It is interesting to note that almost 2/3 of visitors have a higher education, and almost half of them visit museums and exhibitions at least 4 times a year. As the leisure time activities indicate, the majority of the visitors were lifelong learners, that is, people who pursue learning in a self-directed way at all life stages. Curiosity was the main reason to stop and watch the time machine, evidencing that attracting power was activated. Other reasons, such as the possibility to sit and rest, or influence from the fact that other people were watching, were less important. So, when asked what did they enjoy most, 268 out of 313 visitors, which is 87% more or less, who watched the time machine gave a positive feedback. They mentioned the learning impact of the program. They found it easy to understand and appropriate for different kinds of audiences, especially for children. They liked the stories or specific narrative elements. Especially the visuals helped to convey information and to obtain a quick idea of the evolution in time, overcoming language barriers and the diversity of cultural backgrounds. Now, we know that learners have different interests or prior knowledge of a subject, and that they use different interpretive strategies to construct meaning from an experience. More than half of the visitors reported having learned something new or exciting by watching the stories of the time machine. The highest learning impact, though, was recorded among younger people, teenagers and millennials. According to their answers, the visitors from both age groups are extensively using social media and therefore are experienced with creating their own images and stories. On the contrary, visitors with prior knowledge, like subject specialists, as well as those not interested in prehistory, reported not having learned anything new. Among the broader learning outcomes that were recorded, and this is beyond knowledge acquisition and understanding of facts, it is interesting to note the strong emotional impact of storytelling and the role of the characters in creating an empathic engagement, as well as the enjoyment that arose from an unexpected discovery or from establishing links between the stories and the objects of the exhibition. Critical thinking led to questioning the messages put forward by the museum curators and transmitted through the stories. Creative thinking was evidenced when visitors constructed meaning by combining information from the time machine and prior knowledge of the subject. So the analysis of the results is still ongoing, and the results of the evaluation will be published soon on the Riches Resources website. So thank you for your attention, and many thanks to all the Riches partners which are here today for their kind support. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Caterina. I think that reflecting on the results of what we are proposing is a very important action. So I think that it was a very appreciated intervention, because we are pushing new products, but then we have to see which is the actual appreciation from our users. And now I would invite Jessica and Alessandra, Jessica, to present the pitch about Nora, another piece of the innovation space of eSpace.
Okay, good morning everybody. I'm Jessica Stella and I'm going to talk about Nora. But before, I'd like to start with a little game. As you see, I have a banana behind me. And can you name a film or a song or an artist with banana as protagonist? Yeah? Another one? No? Nobody? If you... some musician that have a... Yeah, okay, it's great. Okay? And what would you say if I told you that it can be linked to music, art, literature, and fashion? So, let me explain. Art, Andy Warhol. Literature, there are a fanzine, Banane, that talk about banana market. Cinema, Banana Joe, but it's an Italian movie. And music, The Velvet Underground, with the cover, Banana. And style, I Steal, an artist that's drawn banana. Okay, now you are probably wondering about what Nora is, right? I think so. And no, Europeana isn't preparing us for the last edition of a TV game, but Nora is a web magazine that wants to highlight the connection between different cultural areas, apparently different. Sorry. Why we do that? Because Nora wants to create an hyper-connected world where people are able to create a personal edutainment path. And how it works? And Nora comes out every 15 days, but we can guarantee you that this choice is not due for our laziness, but it's really, really hard work, write article and find the connection. And we have two kind of interview for two kind of people, of course. And we have next door heroes and mind their business, because the first one is for ordinary people, like our friends, and mind their business is for influential person. Okay, what else? We have also the Cool Watcher, that it's a daily column useful for you and for us to be on the ball. that spot the best things going around. So we can say that Nora is an interdisciplinary, culture-based magazine that will fuck up your mind. So, but why we are here? Because to reuse, remake, and reimagine a culture, art, and lifestyle magazine means being able to use a friendly approach, not objective, spontaneous, and out of the box. So, we don't want to be the know-all professors, just learn and having fun. And we hope to reaching everyone, but we have a slight preference for hipsters, nerd, and underground subcultures. So, thank you.
Thank you very, very much. I would invite everybody to have a look at the Space News, because in the Space News you can find all the information about and the contacts for the incubated projects. So we have arrived to the time of lunch, a little bit with a running exercise, but I think that we can use the time of informal meeting for question and answers. We will have some question and answers space at the very end of the session later this afternoon. For this afternoon, we will have some more pitches that are interlaced with 2 keynote speakers. So please do not leave us. Stay with us. Thank you. We start this afternoon with 2 more pitches and 2 keynote speakers, and with this we will complete the session 2, the spaces of space. So I would like to invite Paul to talk to us about StoryPix. Thank you.
Hello everyone, welcome back. I have 5 minutes to get you over your lunch dip, so I'll do my best. StoryPix originated from an idea that was inspired by filmmakers. I have a background in film, and I was always fascinated how filmmakers can make an empty space, such as space, into a narrative space, into a space for stories. I found this quote, which I think is very true for anyone who's ever attended a wedding or a funeral. I think can relate to this. It's the stories that connect us. It's the stories how we remember. And when I found this book, it was exactly my experience of art. Alain de Botton speaks how artworks actually relate to our personal stories, stories about love, stories about loss, and how art can actually inspire us. We've spent the last decade or so digitizing art in amazing resolution. So, and a lot of work has been put into that, a lot of expertise. But the question is, now we have all these archives, and what we're going to do with it. I don't look at archives on a website more than 5 minutes because it's too much, and I find it hard to relate to it. But I think we're now at a point in technology where we're coming to a phase where digital technology is providing us a canvas which is incredible to look at artwork with. This little second square in the corner is how we are looking at this image, the HD. 4K is now a standard for TVs, 8K is arriving. So this kind of quality is amazing to show artwork. So I think we have to rethink the canvas. If this is the canvas, we have to rethink what we can do with it. But not only in terms of technology, because technology also invites different forms of storytelling, and one of them is sound. And sound and personal storytelling, I think, are key to a cinematic art experience. So, if we think about cinema, we think about big screens, and we think about how we can engage with an artwork and explore that artwork. And storytelling is a great way for us to connect to things that are close to us. So StoryPigs developed a technology that can show artworks in the streets, on billboards, on huge screens, and relate to those artworks in a personal way. I don't know if, I'm not going to ask you to raise hands, but anyone who's ever used Tinder, I can tell you there are great, great stories behind that. And I would love to hear about all of those stories, so please come and tell me later. But artworks can actually give that kind of inspiration to us. There's many things that are in the classics about narcissism, about our relation to ourselves, that relate to contemporary culture, which is interesting. There's general big themes in our lives, dreams, Freudian fantasies that art can reveal, and it's fantastic to dig into that. And I would love to hear all these kind of small personal stories from people. So how can art relate to our daily lives, and what can we learn from it? How can it guide us? This is the idea of StoryPigs. We created an exhibition technology that can have an exhibition shown up in different places in the city. So wherever you are, wherever there's an internet connection, and wherever that has access to this platform, we can build an exhibition in a very short time. When you are in front of that artwork, it's GPS technology that basically allows you to tap into to the screen where you're standing in front. It's web-based, and it brings you right into this interface. With the interface, there's a couple of options. First of all, is listening to stories. It's listening to what people have experienced in their life and how this relates to this kind of painting. But you can also connect to that screen. These paintings are sometimes in incredible resolution, and you can look at these paintings in detail in a way that you might not even be able to do in a museum. And we worked with a tiling technology that has incredible, okay, I have to be quick, incredible speed in using this kind of images. Also, you can buy tickets straight from the app. So instead of cycling past a poster saying, oh, there could be a nice exhibition, and forgetting about it a minute later, now if you're standing in front of it, you can buy a ticket straight away. So it's a real-world exhibition, but it's also a social media campaign. These kind of stories are lovely to share with your friends. So it's something that you can do straight from the app, obviously. I'll do this very, very briefly. It's a video, so I'll take that minute of you to show you what this app is about. So that was it. Thank you very much. Thank you, Europeana. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Paul. It's amazing how much we are using videos in this conference. We are communicating through videos. I would invite another point of view from outside of the project. The next speaker is Joyce Ray from the Johns Hopkins University. And Joyce will talk to us about digital curation, making the most of it. And the curation is clearly a hot topic because we said access to digitization first, then access to content, then solving rights questions. But if the content is not curated, we are missing what we need to tell stories. So it is the necessary part.
Thank you. Okay, thank you. Okay, so I have an almost impossible task speaking after lunch, and I don't have a really cool project to present. I'm going to be talking about some things that are maybe a little boring, but I hope not. Well, like standards and things, but I'm promised I'm going to move quickly and try not to be boring. And I said that, and then the first thing I'm going to talk about is myself. But I'm saying that for two reasons. One is to say, first of all, that I have obviously a very U.S. perspective. And two is that from the historical perspective, I'd like to talk about, I actually lived through this, so I have some personal knowledge of it. So as I said, I want to talk about a little bit historical perspective, talking about how digital curation is being integrated into education in the US, a little bit about what I would call soft infrastructure. These is where the standards come in and how that informs our curriculum framework, and then finally a little bit about research and integrating research into practice. Okay, so I trace the origins of digital curation in the US back to the National Information Infrastructure Task Force that was created by President Bill Clinton, headed by Vice President Al Gore back in 1993. And that task force developed a strategy to expand knowledge and promote global e-commerce through advanced information technologies. And 10 years later, we see the first use of the term cyber infrastructure, which has been very popular in the US. It was first used in a report by this Blue Ribbon Advisory Panel on Cyber Infrastructure that was funded by the National Science Foundation. The report was published in 2003, and it predicted that cyber infrastructure would become as fundamental as laboratories and instrumentation, as classroom instruction, and as the system of conferences and journals for dissemination of research outcomes. And the report defined cyber infrastructure, excuse me, just a little bit hoarse, as research environments that support advanced data acquisition, data storage, data management, data integration, data mining, data visualization, and other computing and information processing services excuse me, distributed over the internet beyond the scope of a single institution. So you see from this that this is very intensive on data and also computing and information processing, because that's the mission of the National Science Foundation. So the advisory panel recommended that the funding for the National Science Foundation be increased by $1 billion to support basic and applied research on cyber infrastructure with investment in data repositories and digital libraries, well-curated data repositories, and better ways to organize and manage large repositories through software infrastructure and the development of standards to ensure interoperability through automated techniques to allow data to be, quote, self-documenting and discoverable. And I've always wondered who they thought was going to be doing the well-curated data repositories when everything was going to be automated and self-documenting. But that was their vision, and the National Science Foundation, by the way, is a research agency. In theory, at least, it only funds research, so basic and applied research. It had no funding in this program for implementation or for education. Meanwhile, in the UK, there was a task force convened by JISC, formerly known as Joint Information Systems Committee, and this was, I believe, the first use of the term digital curation. And this task force was convened to discuss the feasibility and potential benefits of a strategic approach to the preservation and reuse of primary research data, focused on the expertise required to perform essential tasks. So this is in 2002, and JISC, unlike the National Science Foundation, was really had the mandate to do implementation, not research. And so this report led to the creation of the Digital Curation Center at the University of Edinburgh and distributed through partnerships throughout the UK in 2003. And they did and have done a lot of workshops and other kinds of training, but had no funding for formal graduate education. I know there's a number of people here from the UK, particularly Coventry. Anybody here not from Coventry? From the UK? Yeah, okay. Okay, so you can probably add a lot more to this. This is just my perspective, and if I get anything wrong or it needs clarification, please chime in afterwards. I know we're moving quickly. But back in the US, so I worked at that time for the Institute of Museum and Library Services, which is a funding organization in the US that's particularly to support libraries and museums. And at that time, the First Lady was Laura Bush, who was a former librarian herself, and she expressed interest in doing something to help libraries. End result was that we got funding in our budget for a new program, which still exists and is now known as the Laura Bush 21st Century Librarian Program, that was to support education in schools of library and information science. But there was a lot of flexibility as to what we used it for within that parameter. And seeing that there was a growing need for digital curators, we started calling for proposals to develop programs in digital curation in graduate schools of library and information science. And so a number of programs were established then that still exist, either as certificate programs or as specialized tracks within master's degree programs in library and information science. But because this was a library program, there was no funding for museum professional development, and the budget that was on the museum side for education and training was quite small. So, up to the present, now we have, for the first time, a digital curation certificate program in museum studies in a U.S. Institution. This is my institution. It's now 2 years old. And I was the founding director of the certificate program in 2014 within the master's program in museum studies. So we also offer the graduate certificate in digital curation. Just a little bit of background about the MA program. It also is relatively new. It just started in 2008. It's mostly online, 9 online courses, and 1 on-site seminar that our opportunities are given every year, always some in the US, but we also have had very often seminars in London. We've had a couple in Berlin, and we're planning another one for next summer, and at least one in Barcelona. And we now have over 500 graduates from that program, so it's really been quite successful. The graduate certificate in digital curation launched in 2014 with a dual degree option, combining it with the MA in Museum Studies. There are 6 courses, of which 5 are core, and there's 1 elective. It also is online with 1 internship that has an on-site component requirement. And we currently have about 60 students in this program. So as I said, there are 6 courses, 3 of which are common, and all students take the common courses regardless of their specialization, whether it's art museums or natural history museums. They all take these 3 basic courses in digital preservation, a foundations of digital curation course, and a managing digital information in museums course that's a little bit more hands-on, working with some tools. And then there's 3 customized courses that I'll talk a little bit more about later. So you may have noticed that there's not one single definition of digital curation that everyone agrees on, and we felt that we had to adopt some definition, but we also felt flexible because everybody else was using different ones and changing them, they're evolving. So we took a definition that the Digital Curation Center had used some time ago. I think they've changed it a little bit since then, and just added a little bit to it to reflect the museum focus on presentation. So we define digital curation as the planning and management of digital assets over their full lifetime, from conceptualization through active use and presentation to long-term preservation in a repository for future reuse. And in the curriculum, we emphasize some models, tools, and services that I want to just mention briefly. I really like these models because it's a high-level way to visualize concepts. And starting with the Open Archives Information System reference model, which obviously these things are very high level and they leave a lot of detail to be fleshed out. But I think this was important because it was the first time that it said that digital preservation is not just a technique or a technology. It's not a machine sitting over there. It's an organization. And the whole organization, that's the sponsor, the management of the organization has some responsibility, oversight over the digital preservation. It's not something you just leave to the IT department. The digital curation lifecycle model defines a lot of the activities that are important throughout the lifetime of digital assets, starting with conceptualization, meaning even before you create a digital asset, that you think about preservation, because often decisions made at the very beginning can affect how easy or hard it is to preserve that asset and sustain it over time. And then the conceptual reference model developed through CDOC, the Committee on Documentation and Information, that I think lays a vision for connecting concepts, relationships, events, people in ways that we now see available as linked open data. We have some protocols for interoperability, from the Open Archives Initiative protocol for metadata harvesting to linked open data models. a lot of platforms for data sharing. So Europeana, which I hold up as the first big leader in this area, but now finally we have a Digital Public Library of America, Art Store, Google Arts and Culture, and the American Art Collaborative, which is a pilot of a number of American museums that are working to create linked open data collaboratively. We have guidance in the form of a resource that is now maintained by the National Information Standards Organization, a framework of guidance for building good digital collections that identifies principles of good practice for creating collections, objects, metadata, and projects, and then points to current standards. This is a little out of date, unfortunately, 2007. I'm sure it needs to be updated, and I would also like to see it internationalized because I think it is a valuable tool. Of course, we have lots of metadata schemas, which range from everything like formats, arrangement, subject matter, transmission, etc. So a variety of types of ways that you need to document digital assets. Control vocabularies that provide guidance on how to enter data in the metadata fields. And of course, these general tools are quite important so that we're not always reinventing the wheel. But then sometimes it's also important to maintain local vocabularies for particular areas of collection in a single institution. Number of tools and services like the data management planning tool that was developed jointly by in the US and the UK in a joint project. Some services like DuraCloud that is a nonprofit that enables people that want to use cloud-based storage services to monitor their data and not be completely in the dark about what's happening there in the cloud. And then a tool audit and certification of trustworthy digital repositories that also establishes principles of good practice for repositories and gives examples and explains what kinds of evidence can demonstrate that a repository is trustworthy. There's a lot of open source software, and I'm not really familiar with these because I don't teach that course. It's a colleague who developed it, but Archivematica is an open source digital preservation management system. BitCurator is an open source tool that packages together a number of digital forensics tools. And Space Sniffer is a freeware that I believe is incorporated into BitCurator that enables people to find hidden files like on a removable media that they're investigating. And so everybody's talking about stories. I think it's also important in digital curation. And I can cite some examples here that they've come from different perspectives, but I think they're all sort of about the same thing. We funded a project when I was at IMLS to create a toolkit called the Data Curation Profiles Toolkit, which is really about helping archivists or librarians talk to researchers about their data and really getting the story of the data with the idea that if anybody else is actually going to reuse this data, they have to understand enough about the context to understand what it is and how to use it. At the same time, in the art world, we have digital media artists who are creating very innovative works, but over time, technology will become obsolete, or if it's internet-based, the internet itself changes. And so to keep these things alive or to represent them in the future, is a protocol that is being used in some places for interviewing the artists to try to get them to talk about what are the significant properties of their works that if you can't maintain it exactly as it is today, what is it that is most important to convey? What is the meaning? What are they trying to say? And I think that really feeds into the whole narrative of digital storytelling as documentation. So those are the courses that are in our basic curriculum. And I mentioned we have customized courses as well that I'll talk about just briefly. So in the area of electives, we have developed some new courses for the Museum Studies program. One on managing analog and digital photographs, an introduction to archives, which was so popular it completely filled up in the first 15 minutes after it was registration opened. And we're considering some new courses in areas like provenance research for archival context, so going beyond just ownership of museum objects, but really opening up archives to explain more of the context of what these holdings are, objects and larger collections, and then the larger cultural connotations of those. Also, again, storytelling and digital interviews as a way to capture documentation. So we've had students interning all over the US. We had one student in London at the Imperial War Museum. We've had students at the Library of Congress, the Smithsonian, and a number of university art galleries and historical societies. And then finally, I wanted to talk about research. So we do require students to take a research course. They need to investigate a problem in digital curation. Their work can contribute to the emerging research literature in this area, which is not very extensive right now, particularly for museums. And we want to create an environment to sustain ongoing research. And just for one example of why this is needed, the Smithsonian for a number of years has had the Museum Conservation Institute, which has done some really important research on material science, but as so often has happened in the past, they did the research, they published the study, where's the data? It's not there anymore. So I think that is a new focus that the Smithsonian itself is focusing on through its Office of Research Information, and it's something that we want to promote as well. And three research projects that I wanted to talk about just briefly are digital forensics in archives, capturing field archaeology data, and color settings for imaging artworks. So this student worked in a special collections area at the University of Texas at San Antonio, and her job was to test some of the open source software tools on a quarantine station, meaning that it was not connected to any network, standalone, to investigate removable media found in the special collections. And then it turned out, though, that even though they had a database that listed a lot of the removable media, when she actually started looking in the boxes, it turned out there was lots and lots more that had never even been recorded in the database. So, and that is a huge problem throughout archives today, is that they have taken in all of these files on different types and eras of removable media and don't even know what they have. So one of the things that came out of her project was this poster to help people identify what kinds of removable media they might come across. Another student worked on digital archaeological data, which particularly data collected in the field, which, as they say, is dirty data in many meanings of that term because they're out working in the dirt, but it's also like you get one chance to document it correctly for it really to be usable to others. There's a couple of different repositories that provide access to archaeological data, but it turns out that there's so many different types of archaeological projects, what kind of, what time period, what region, what they're looking for, how they document it, that there is no one metadata schema for archaeological data, and apparently that is such a problem that it's years away. Nobody thinks it's going to happen immediately. So this group in Australia created a mobile device called FAMES, Field Acquired Information Management Systems, that is trying to provide an easy way for archaeologists to record field data and repurpose it, send it to various repositories, and with the idea that eventually there will be some standards developed, but right now they're kind of just in the early days of it. And finally, I wanted to mention this research on color in imaging works of art. You may have seen this image before from the Rijksmuseum, Vermeer's The Milkmaid, and there was a white paper written by Harry Verwaayen and a colleague, published by Europeana, that is called The Problem of the Yellow Milkmaid, and I actually assigned this in my class because the point is that there were so many bad images out on the web circulating around that people would come to the Rijksmuseum and they thought the original was faded, or they were used to seeing this really yellow copy out there, very poor quality. And this student of mine has a background in web design and art, and so she was interested in how do you get an accurate image as far as color is concerned. So I connected her with the digital imaging team at the National Gallery of Art, who actually has a color scientist on board, and he helped her, formulate a methodology. And what she learned was that most artworks use a standard setting called D50 illumination that is the best possible for publication, like in books. And so that's become the accepted standard that everybody just routinely uses. But she did some work on looking at, like, for example, Vermeer lived in Delft, typically overcast, and he painted in a studio. I don't know how well you can see this here, but the one on the left is using D50 illumination, and you can see that the woman's face and her headpiece look much whiter and brighter. The one on the right is softer and more nuanced. And so this is what it would look like with a cloudy day illumination. And she came up with a comparison chart for figuring out, realizing that you can't do research on every single artist or every single work, but if you knew whether they planned for it to be hung in a church, whether they painted outside or inside in a studio, whether it was meant to hang in a commercial building or an art gallery, all of those things might affect the illumination that they intended for their work. And you could follow this to create a more representative historical archival image. And here's just one example of why this could be important. Harvard University has a Rothko mural that was so terribly faded it was basically ruined. And you can't just retouch an artwork like this. You can't paint over it. So what they did ultimately was take images of it and create light filters so that it's normally in the dark, but if somebody wants to look at it, or the way it was supposed to look, they can flip a switch, the light comes on with these color filters and shows it more like the original. So her conclusion was that a scholarly historical image should be preserved as a benchmark alongside a publication quality master in the event that restoration is sometimes, required for this work in the future. And then finally, I just want to mention the explorations that we've made in integrating research into practice. We convened a summit on digital curation in art museums in October 2015, and Monica Hagedorn-Zalpa was there representing the EU, the whole of it. And the idea was to explore the potential for collaboration between art museums and graduate education programs, especially for interns and student researchers. And we had support from the Crest Foundation for this meeting. So some of the findings that emerged was, one, there really is no consensus on the definition of digital curation or roles of digital curators. The only participant we had at this meeting who was from a museum and actually had the title of digital curator had been hired to do social media. So, a lot of the things we're talking about here, he said he was having a really existential moment there. So, it's still a big gray area. Also, the preservation of innovative installations should be considered at the time of creation and is the responsibility of the institution. And I think that came about because it was recognized that people that are really creative, like a lot of the people here that we've seen these projects on, are often their orientation of what is sustainability is more closely related to what museum educators and outreach people think of it as, like, how do people retain what they've learned. They're not thinking about the technology itself, about how that will be sustained and perhaps represented in the future. And also we learned that many art museums would, in fact, like to integrate digital curation into their practices. So these were the highlights of the recommendations that came from our summit. First of all was resolve the ambiguity around the definition of digital curation. I don't know who's going to do that. If anyone wants to volunteer, I'd be happy to talk to you afterwards. Or if you have feel that you have a solution to this problem, I don't know what it is. They also recommended creating an advocacy strategy with the art museum community, highlighting stories of innovative and effective practices, perhaps giving awards to recognize good work, to promote the value of internships for the sponsor and for the profession, as well as for the interns themselves, and to identify potential projects for interns and student researchers, and also to involve the professional associations in all areas, with the overall goal to create communities of practice and research that are integrated with the information infrastructure. So finally, conclusions. I conclude from this that we do now have an information infrastructure, and I include in this a soft infrastructure, which I think is very important to maintaining content over time. So we have this infrastructure to support innovative use and reuse of cultural heritage assets, but the infrastructure must be sustained and enhanced to ensure future availability of these digital assets. The entire cultural heritage community must be involved. Museums must take responsibility for all of their digital assets. And I also believe that archives and archivists and collections have an increasingly important role to play in digital curation. So, thank you. Now, I assume we need to move on, and I'll be around this afternoon if people want to ask questions
maybe
later.
we have a time for
We have,
a couple
okay,
of
so a
questions,
question or
yes.
two or comment?
Is there any question?
Anybody?
I have one.
Okay, go ahead.
We are talking often now in the area of digital curation, whatever is the definition of digital curation, about participatory approaches, citizens' engagement. Which is your opinion? Is this a new frontier for the evolution of digital curation?
I know that we get a lot of prospective students who are really interested in what you're talking about, which is, I would say, the kind of more proactive, interactive uses of cultural heritage materials. And I would say that is one aspect, but I think it's also really important for people to understand the tools and standards that go into creating something that is discoverable by other people and reusable by other people. So, you know, if it's just one innovative project, it's what's the future of it? You know, that's actually a concern that I have with, at least in the US, there's a growing number of digital humanities centers in universities that, you know, typically these people get grants to do some, you know, really wonderful things, but unless they're working with an institution that has responsibility for preservation, what's going to happen when they retire or move on, or the grant ends and they go on to something else? So I think this might be somewhat analogous, that I think it's important to pay attention to the whole life cycle for me. Yeah, anyway.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thank you, Joyce.
Okay.
Well, I would like to invite another colleague for the speech. Is Holger, who will talk us about news.
Hi, I'm Holger. I'm talking about news, which loosely translates to mind, intuition, or awareness, and yeah, part of it is about emotion technology. So first of all, there's this disconnect between technology and emotion. If you're trying to type something into your device or trying to communicate, it's always with touch or nowadays voice, but never with your emotions. You can't directly enter them or tell your phone, your computer, how you actually feel. And the technology always does the same, whether you're happy or sad, it never changes. So the question is, does your computer know how you feel, or maybe even your house or your car? Probably not. But we had some scenarios looking into the future. What if you're studying and your device knows how you're feeling? And if you're really into the zone, it could play the perfect music, the perfect soundtrack. Or if you're really tired and falling asleep, it could just urge you to take a break if your device would know how you feel. This is if you're playing a game or enjoying some form of entertainment. The whole plot or the levels could basically adapt to your emotions. If you're hating some kind of enemy, maybe this one's shooting at you, and you're in this hardcore mode, the game could send you more of these enemies, and the game would adapt and become harder and harder based on your personal feelings or whatever you like. And the same goes for movies or music. If you're watching a horror movie and hate certain kind of scenes, the movie could just drop these elements and could be totally different. The dream of the connected home is if you're really happy, the windows could open up and the perfect music could play. Or if you're sad, your connected home could order you some pizza and play the perfect Netflix movie if you're into that. So this is where we come in. We are Project News, and we bring emotions to technology. You might be wondering how we're doing this. Currently, we're working with EEG devices. These are kind of headbands or caps that you're wearing. And we're translating these brainwaves that we're capturing into emotions. We're doing that by machine learning and signal processing. And this was all only available to laboratories and scientists, but now it's coming more and more onto consumer devices, so it's getting cheaper and faster as well.
This is how it looks when we are working. Simon is in the background also working, and you see I just wear the device. This is currently a developer version, so not that beautiful, but we imagine in the future it might just be a simple headband and could be maybe even worn in public. Applications, as already said, gaming and smart devices, but also market research. If all of you were wearing these devices, then I could see if you're enjoying it or not, or if you're feeling excited or maybe even tired. And as well, entertainment is movies and games. So, in short summary, we're working with technology and trying to bring all of the emotions that we have as humans to technology to make it more human in the end. That's it. Thanks.
We had not yet talked about emotion today. Yeah? So you woke up our heart. I would invite Thomas Bremer from the University of Applied Science, culture, play. So it is probably a nice continuation of the discourse on emotions.
Like to use games for something, but I really talk about ordinary games. So you can find a lot of, in the past years, you can find a lot of texts about computer games and about the problem of computer games. This is German text, and it's about about the problems what you have with computer games, about the emotional problems and stuff like that. We have another one. It's about more the computer game could have problems for public security and stuff like that. But actually I was cheating you. The first of them is about reading. It's from 1794. It was a time when the first mass books came out, and mainly women was reading. And it was not in that time only about reading. You can find texts about the mental health problems when kids go to school. So at that time. Why is that? The next text is about the movie, the upcoming movie. So you can find many of texts like this. And if you think a moment, when does this kind of text come out? It's when you have, actually, with the books, you had a changing in the history, you have changing because it's with the beginning of the industrialization, and people start to read, and people start to get more power. And with every new technology, you have changing in the society. This is a very old one. This is from Platon. This is about writing, about the typo. And so what actually games are? This is very hard to explain for me, because when you come from the German context, it's you don't have a difference between game and play, because you say Spiel, and we say Spiel ein Spiel. So, in the one of the earliest texts about play is actually from Johann Huizinga. He is a Dutch cultural scientist, and his definition is actually. This is the original one in German, and this is the English translation. You see, normally English is shorter, yeah, but in this case, the English one is longer. So, the main thing about this, the definition is There is no material interest and no profit can be gained by it. This was his idea. So this is, play is a free activity, it's outside the ordinary life, it's not serious, but one important thing is no material interest and no profit can be gained by it. So what is actually David Beckham? He's a soccer player. Does he play or does he play not? This is basically actually from the idea of Friedrich Schiller, because his idea of the Spieltrieb is one of the early concept of the autonomous art. And he defined it by play. So I will go a little bit further. We have a lot of definition. This is from Roger Calois. He is deciding what kind of games we have. We have competition, we have chance, we have vertigo, we have simulation. And if you go to computer games, we have time-critical action games, decision-critical adventure games, configuration-critical strategy games. So we have different kind of games where we can find out. If you're looking to the concept of game, then you can find out that it's not only man is playing. You can see cats are playing. A lot of animals are playing. So play must be older than culture. It's a concept which is much older than culture. Karl Gross wrote about this in Spiel der Tiere. But on the other hand, maybe because it's older than culture, there is very few examples in culture products where you can see people playing. This is Peter Bruegel, Die Kinderspiele, is one of these very few examples. Even if you're looking to pictures, it's very hard to find old pictures about playing kids and so on. This is a German special German word is from the English killer and the German Spiele. And usually we mean like ego shooters, like this. This is a political term about ego shooter. But who is the killer? I go a little bit further.
Die neue Eventshow in
No.
Die neue Eventshow in 2.
Auf geht's! Wer kann sich gegen 999 Mitbewerber durchsetzen? Einer wird es schaffen.
This is a German game show from last year.
1000. Wer ist die Nummer 1?
Samstag, 20:15 Uhr im ZDF.
And this is about 1,000 people and one will win. This is a special concept. As game designer, this kind of winning games, when we're talking about, there's a typical kind of player who likes this kind of plays. And this is, we call them sometimes a killer. He wants to win. They thrive on competition with other players, and this is a special concept. But this is not the only one, it's the only type of player we have. We have different definition. One of Bartel's definition was the archiver, explorer, socializer, and the killer is one of them. But there's a more complex one. So if you looking to newer models like Brine Hacks, then you can see we have different kind of play and we have different kind of players. And this could be interesting when you're looking to people what they actually want. So in game design, the thing is, you do something what people do because of their own choice. So, but we're addressing a kind of the player what they want. So the seeker is you wonder what's out there. The survivor is I find a way to get through alive. A daredevil is all for rush. A mastermind, I know what to do. A conqueror is like a puzzle player, a mastermind. A conqueror cannot be defeated. A socializer, can I help? Or an archiver, I can do it. So if you're looking to people like player, you can maybe understand them in a different way. So Lernspiele. Lernspiele is actually the most boring thing to our students because they want to make games for fun. And the English term game-based learning a kind of itself. So I want to show you some Lernspiele. I show you something different. Actually, do you know this, guys? Maybe one of them, the other not. But they have something in common. They played, or they play, the same kind of game. The first one, Friedrich Wilhelm III, played this one. It's a tactical war game. It's the first one of all strategic games, of this kind of strategic games, what you have today in computer games. It has the same structure, it has the same patterns. It actually was invented by Georg Leopold von Reichswitz in 1812 and in that time. You can see it's looking like modern board games, but you can see also elements you have in modern computer games. And it was a learning game. A training game, actually, for strategic thinking in a war situation. A later one of this kind of concept is Gulf Strike. It's 1983. It was a commercial board game. But in the beginning of the 90s, you see this is Gulf Strike. Desert Storm was in the 90s. And the American militaries hired this game designer at the beginning, before they go to the Desert Storm. This designer was hired to configure it as a training application. So this is actually the game what the other guy is playing, SOS. It's called StarCraft. StarCraft is one of the most popular computer games today, and this is actually very important in e-sport, and the SOS is actually one of the championships of the last year in playing this game. In Germany or in Europe, this is just starting. In Korea, the players, they are same popular as soccer players in Europe. But, so why we have this kind of games? So, does we learn something? could not do it.
You're doing pretty good.
Actually, when in the 80s, when the first computers came out, so my mother went out and making a computer course because she was very she was thinking about she has to learn this. So, and yeah, all right, you have to learn it. But today, with young people, you don't have to train them in commercial business. You don't have to train them to select complex technical situation because they trained by themselves, actually. So an ordinary computer game is actually a training situation for our life. And Robert and Joanna Fagen had about play behavior in brown beers. So you see, the concept is much more older. And actually, they had some beers in Alaska. And the beers who plays a lot are more socialized, get better food, and fish more laxes? Salmons, sorry. Yeah. So one of the Stuart Brown says, play is actually one of the brain's best forms of exercise. So we can question what kind of games we want to play. But it's actually, so what do players want? And it's a kind of exercise, of course. They want to explore, they want to collect, they want to build, they want to destroy, they want to learn, they want to train. When we're thinking about our students, we're thinking about the same concept when we make our make our courses, when we make our seminars and stuff like that. We're using the same terms, actually. They want feedback, they want challenge, they want autonomy, they want community, and they want flow. So this is kind of concept which you can use in different areas, even in cultural heritage, without even creating a game. There is difference between cultures. Our culture the Western culture is basically about meat, the origin. Today we have vegetarians, but the origin is about meat, and we have had to decide the good pieces of meat. What is the best piece of meat and who gets the best piece of meat? And this is the reason, because in our culture we play a lot of games like this killer game, like ego shooters, like deathmatch. So deathmatch means there's only one person over. If you look into Asian culture, you have rice as a basic concept. Rice is even in Chinese language, even the word for food. So if you breakfast is morning rice, lunch is noon rice, and dinner is evening rice. So this is, and the whole culture, and if you look into their games, they are not about individual characters. In European games, you have the individual characters. They are much more about roles and concepts. They can even use things from different cultures. If you're playing an Asian role-playing game, you have stuff like Siegfried and something else, or Zeus, but they are not actually these characters, Siegfried or Zeus. they have functions, they have specific roles. So there you can see that every society creates their own games, and this kind of concepts can change too.
Forschung herausfinden.
This is actually a small video about a survey which was from my colleague Simone Kühn. She let people, they never played video games, play for a couple of months video games, and before them they get to the MRT, and after them they go to the MRT, and you really can see this, the brain was changing. So, games has that much impact that they can change your brain in a positive way and in the negative way. So, after that, we created a special game for older people. For people who was thinking about that they have problems with their mind. They're not already having dementia, is just before. And this is actually, the concept is about avoiding and self-control. And we created this game. This is the way how the concept works. Yes. And so actually we use fruits for this, for the game, and it's the idea is about sozusagen, this is very, very simple games about fruits, and you have sorting into avoiding something, etc. And later we evaluated, and actually you had impact on the brain of older people too.
Acht Wochen dauerte die eigentliche Studienphase. Alle Teilnehmerinnen und Teilnehmer mussten jeden Tag für rund 30 Minuten spielen. Wo?
Okay. Thank you.
Thomas made us laughing because the last game was for elderly people, but they were young, so if
no,
they were already old.
Yeah, this was the people that created the game. That was young.
Okay.
Okay. The older people you see here.
Yes, I see.
Okay. Yeah.
8 Wochen dauerte die eigentliche
We change
Studienphase.
our brain with the games. Any question? Any question? Is there any question? Yes.
What kind?
You, in the last game that you showed us on the food choice,
yes,
which was given to a group of adults who were mentally disturbed or in a pre-dementia state. What were the results that you found after you applied this game?
When they applied this game, the results is that you have the hippocampus is getting bigger, and also what I don't know the English name for this, the Belohnungssystem, the rewarding system is it was getting bigger, and this is very important for older people for feeling good and stuff like that. So this was actually, and this was by a time of 2 months, playing the game every day. Huh? For half an hour, yeah.
Any other question? I have one.
Yeah.
How do you think that this study on the effect of playing on our brain can combine with the culture? Do you mean that culture can be a subject for gaming, or vice versa, through gaming, through playing, we can be attracted to culture?
I think the thing is I was thinking about how you can attract it to culture. Actually, I'm an educated artist, and I didn't play a lot of computer games because I didn't need, because I play a lot, because I create something, I do something, and so on. When you're looking for the concepts of what people do, and it's you need for the, I think the first thing when I came to museums when I was young is I look into the picture, and the first thing I'd heard was an sirene, I don't know what it is. An alarm.
Because it was, you were too close.
Yeah, I was too close. So, and you need for cultural heritage, you need more freedom for the places. I think you need more a more playable environment, I think.
Thank you very much.
If you want to attract young people.
Yeah, but
so
maybe also elderly people.
Yeah.
Yes, Maria.
Looking at the different types you described,
yeah.
I think that's something where we can learn from
Yes.
also as well, so that there are really different ways of people looking at different gamers, so to say. So the one who is more the explorer, one who wants to be social, and so I think this is something which we can reflect and can also use in order to attract our audience in the cultural heritage area. So I think there are several relations which we can use in order to make culture more, and this is the possibilities we have with digital culture or with the digital material around culture, that we can do it that way and be a little bit more, even more creative than we are already with all the projects we saw today and which are there. And then, but the one thing is trying to play, like developing it in a hackathon or so. The other thing is maybe, if you look at it a little bit more from a scientific approach, targeting a special group and a special way, and then think about what would be the right way of doing it in the cultural heritage area. Yes. So I think we can try to make several connections here.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Well, with this session, we have completed, with this speech, we have completed the session 2. We can move to the coffee break. We are even earlier than foreseen. So never give me the task to be fast, because I can break times. But we have a little bit of time to discuss among ourselves, to visit the booths, to experiment, to experience the pop-up museums. And we'll reconvene for the conference in the session 3 at 4 o'clock. Thank you. No, sorry, 4:20.